Hello, listeners. Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Nighttime. In tonight's episode, we're going to catch back up with what may be one of the fastest moving stories I've ever tried to follow. Just last month, the self-declared Queen of Canada, Romana Didulo, and her stranger-than-fiction traveling pseudo-government took up residence in an abandoned schoolhouse in Richmound, Saskatchewan that is owned by one of her more devoted followers. In a recent Nighttime episode, we were joined by guerrilla journalist Tom Fougere to discuss the fake queen's siege of Richmound and the residents' attempts to honk their horns loud enough to get rid of her. Well, let me just say, the horn honking didn't do the trick. The QAnon crew is holding their bizarre position, and the whole situation has only gotten more unusual by the minute. And tonight, in this episode, I've invited Tom back to help us unpack some of the story's more significant developments since the last time we spoke. So let's get into it. Thomas Fougere, Tom, Mr. Community TV, or I guess one half of Community TV. This has been a wild few weeks. I had you on, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago when Queen Romana and her band of misfits rolled into Richmound, Saskatchewan. We had a lot to talk about then. Now, 2 or 3 weeks later, oh my goodness, it has only gotten weirder and more crazy. How have you been dealing with it? Because you've been in the middle of this the whole time.
Yeah, how have I been dealing with it? It's been a very, very busy couple of weeks. Because not only is this stuff interesting to lots of people, it's also just become very important to lots of people. So there's a lot of different aspects as to why a journalist who's close physically to this story should be covering it and talking about it. But also I'm kind of like you, Jordan. I love that weird shit.
Oh, and it's
weird.
It is certainly weird. And like I said, it's only gotten weirder and weirder every step of the way. So I figured what we'll do is just kind of go through some of the key moments over the last 2 weeks or so and just kind of recap and a little bit of what's happened, but also discuss, I guess, the play-by-play of how this all went down. So when we last talked, where we had left off primarily was with the townspeople of Richmound had waged a sort of protest involving driving their vehicles around, honking their horns. Of course, that hasn't worked because here we are again 2 or 3 weeks later with Queen Romana and crew still in the schoolhouse. I think the first kind of update that we should hit on is going to be no surprise is that Queen Romana and her group are very quick to send out cease and desist letters to anyone who've come against them. So I think
got a new one today, man. I gotta bring a new one.
Yeah, let me ask you, because you've become one of their main enemies. How many have you received at this point?
So I've been named in 2, but the latest one today was like specifically for me. Most of these seem to be copy paste type of deals. This particular one, it was like they were like, okay, we're going to take that copy paste and we're going to add some other things to it. And what I loved about it was that while I was over at the property last time doing a live stream, sort of making fun of the barrier that they had around the perimeter there, there was a steel rod pounded into the ground, and I rolled up next to it in my truck and reached my hand out and I put my hand on the rod. At first, just kind of like, hey, Ricky, like, what would you do if I touched the fence post? And then like he was just sort of staring at me blankly, like 40-yard stare. And I thought, maybe I can make Ricky laugh. And so I started stroking on the fence post. And he did give a little smirk, and that was really amusing for me. I really enjoyed the fact that Ricky opened up for a second. And in the cease and desist letter, it specifically said, jerking the pole.
Okay.
The letter included that actual wording. So they're really upset about this sexualization of the inanimate object, the steel pole.
They had a problem. And your cease and desist, was it threatening anything specific? Was it, or like you'll be arrested or you'll be dealt with? Like, how did yours come across?
Mm, let me check. I like it. I mean, it's so for me, it's like such a laughable thing that I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. You said that. Look, they said this. Like, there's all these conventions, Geneva Conventions, blah blah blah. There's gonna be tribunal, treason. Both acts carry the death penalty. They said domestic terrorism and treason. It says both acts carry the death penalty. Tom A. Fougier, you have made it your mission to promote hate, violence, intimidate, public indecency, i.e., the live feed, jerking the pole, incitement, trespass on private property, defamation. I love how jerking the pole is within the list of actual real crimes like violence and yeah. So I defamed the charter, was paparazziing, sensationalizing.
Okay, so
I think it's great.
yeah, well, but you in your position, you know what this group's like. You can look at that and you can laugh at it. But when Joe Blow in small town Saskatchewan gets this letter, it can be quite shocking. And my understanding is several people in Richmound, including the mayor, got these sort of cease and desist letters that to them, many of them weren't laughing because it came across more so as death threats or threats of execution. I'm going to play a short news clip, and this will give a sense of, I guess, how the community members react to these letters. And it's not at all the way you did. So listen to this.
Okay.
In the village of Richmound, Saskatchewan, play has been replaced by patrol, an old school building now occupied by a group of conspiracy theorists. While that group's leader works inside, the 118 people who live here worry outside.
It got everybody on their toes, and it's been sort of like people are just staying in their houses more. And I did talk to a younger kid, whatever, the other day, and I said, what do you think of these people here? And he said, oh man, that's scary. I'll never go there.
The people we spoke with who live here in Richmound say they don't want to share their opinions publicly because they're afraid of facing individual threats. Now, some say this is no big deal because they're on private land, so leave them be, while others say their presence is intimidating and it's causing anxiety. On Sunday, Didulo's group sent out threatening letters to locals and authorities, suggesting whoever gets in the group's way or doesn't abide by its beliefs will face public execution. The community asked the province for help, but it deferred to the RCMP.
We're taking these issues with the most seriousness and making sure that we're able to maintain some freedom of association, some freedom of speech.
What does happen if something does happen to a kid, and then everybody says, oh, maybe we should have did something, and that's too late then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the situation as of just about a week ago, where these public execution threats, which again, hearing it on the news or to a layman who gets this public execution threat, it's really serious. But again, to you and I who've seen these cease and desist letter nonsense, like I don't think there's much, it carries much weight, but I can see why people are so freaked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to try and judge anybody else's perspective or say, you know, this is how they see it or how they should see it. I don't really know. Everybody has their own perspective on things. I certainly know what mine is, and it's shifting and evolving all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, like when I first encountered this, I was like, nothing but ridicule. Now, you know, I'm looking at it with also the added perspective of I have personally spoke with family members who have a dad that just went missing and then showed up on these videos out in Saskatchewan. And that's a scary thought. Mm-hmm. that a person just as reasonable as you or I, Jordan, could have a family member, maybe a uncle, dad, cousin, brother, whatever, that loses it and ends up out with one of these groups. That's really what's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like the people who are in these groups, they're not showing up, or in this group or are with her, they're not showing up like for a good time or anything. They truly believe they're on a mission. I'm going to play, I had this short video in my stash here that I think gives a sense of how Queen Romana talks to her followers and how they react to her. This is a short video of her standing outside of her bus addressing a small group of her followers, and she's all but saying she took this role to save Canada from this vague threat, and by saving Canada, saving the world. And as she talks, she starts to tear up and cry, and you hear her supporters react to that.
Yeah.
Listen to this.
Emotional, very emotional.
Social media and mainstream media and all kinds of media couldn't remove the Chinese military. It needed someone stronger and something stronger. And so, with the risk of harm to myself, my family, and friends, I stood up and asked the United Armed Forces, Commander-in-Chief, and our allied forces around the world to please do not allow Canada to fall.
Aww.
I said, please do not allow Canada to fall, and do not allow my people to follow. I also said, if Canada falls, the United States will be attacked and the world will fall. So to those who have judged me and continue to try to discredit me, enjoy your freedom. It has been returned to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not to be dramatic or anything, but my goodness.
Right.
It's yeah, but you hear the people clap, it's the thank you, Romana. Like, she's not only like queen of the country. There's, in their mind, she's saving the world, fighting this battle, this unseen battle with collaborators that are in the most powerful positions, and they believe it 100%.
Think so, maybe. Or they've suspended a little tiny bit of what belief actually is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they believe it 100%, maybe. Well, I don't know. It's like, feels to me like they believe it 50%, and the rest of their beliefs, the other 50%, they've just thrown out the window. They don't even have to think about it, because it's not like they even have a justification. It doesn't even matter, So it's like, it's weird. They're justifying something within themselves that gives them the ability to say, well, I am the light, I am the good, and the things that I don't like, they're all bad. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and the whole thing, like when push comes to shove, of course it's so illogical, and there's so many contradictions in everything they do, but the people don't seem to be able to open their eyes and see the forest for the trees for whatever reason. Getting back to the updates, we had the execution threats that worried the people of Richmound, who go to the mayor, go to the police. And my understanding is that the RCMP didn't have like a local headquarters or any kind of base in, again, the small town of Richmond, which led to them setting up a sort of like a mobile police station. Have you seen this spot? And what is it?
So much has happened since we last talked.
Hell
it
yeah.
feels like it's been a whole cult revolution. So first of all, they made the threats. They say, we're going to publicly execute, we're going to broadcast it. And I thought, that's not going to happen. So I went back out there again and publicly presented myself. I walked across the orange line. I said, take your shot. It felt like I was in Breaking Bad for a second. You know what I mean? I was just like, take the shot. Nobody took the shot. They didn't even try to like apprehend me. In fact, most of them were like, he crossed the line. What do we do? Move away from him. Run back inside. So they don't really have the intention, obviously. And there's not really any means to. They don't have a firing squad, or I don't even think they have a rope long enough or any trees out there to hang somebody from. So they don't have the capacity to actually do it. But the RCMP finds out they're talking about all this shit, and they go, okay, well, we got to set up a command post out there, because there is no police station in this small town. The closest police station's like an hour and a half away or something like that. So they brought out this it's like an RV that the police can live in. And it like sits on the parking lot of sort of where I think they keep the ambulance and the fire truck. Mm-hmm. And there's also a couple of police vehicles.
But they went one step further. And I think it was just 2 days ago, they held a community meeting where several members of the RCMP, the mayor, opened their doors to community members to come in and ask questions and, you know, talk about what's going on. I'm going to play a short CTV clip of how that community meeting went. Then we can talk about this.
You're not guaranteeing our safety at all. And they're sitting in here.
Tensions were high Tuesday afternoon at the Richmound Community Centre as RCMP addressed over 100 residents concerned about a group that moved into a privately owned school building in September. The group, known as the Kingdom of Canada, follows the teachings of Romana Didulo, the self-proclaimed Queen of the Kingdom. At the meeting, some Richmound residents made mention of feeling unsafe. The village of Richmound closed the park adjacent to the school, leaving a local mom frustrated.
I moved from Calgary, the busy city, because this is supposed to be a nice, quiet little village, and it's turning bad. I just want them to go somewhere else.
Others in the area say they refuse to let the group intimidate them.
I'm not afraid of these people. I mean, they make threats, but they're just like a bully. And if you just stand back and don't give them the power, then it takes a lot of stress off yourself and the neighborhood.
At the meeting, questions revolved primarily around community safety, which the RCMP says is not at risk. A mobile detachment was set up on October 6th, which has resulted in multiple investigations into reports of threats, suspicious persons, and an assault, but no charges have been laid thus far.
There is no specific urgent, imminent risk to the well-being or the safety of the citizens. The matters that we are investigating are well in hand, and we have all the available supports to undertake those investigations.
RCMP received a round of applause from residents expressing their gratitude for the extra resources. Currently, the RCMP is providing those extra resources 24/7, but says there is no set timeline for how long the mobile detachment will be in place.
What a bizarre scene. And for people who are just hearing the audio, in that community meeting, which looked to be probably a good majority of the townspeople, there was some frustration because members of Queen Romana's crew were also in there watching it all happen. You hear in the news clip, one person says, like, they're in here. But I
Rick
guess
was front and center.
Was
Yeah.
he? Oh my goodness. And for people who are late to the game, Rick is the property owner of the school or the abandoned school or whatever decommissioned school that they're staying in.
And then last night, Rick went missing. And it was like, the call was like, Rick's missing. And I was like suspicious that maybe like, okay, either A, he got some sense into himself and he's going to try and figure out a way to get out of this whole thing. Or B, he got like arrested or something. Or C, something terrible happened. But, I started to rule out C pretty quickly. It became obvious that Rick had just been arrested and they were talking about missing persons kidnapping and all this stuff to kind of justify maybe some future civil action against the police officers that arrested him. But it seems like they likely had probable cause because they charged him with, I think he said 3 offenses. I'm just going on what Rick said himself when he was reinterrogated by the cult when he got back. It's like he got arrested and interrogated, and then he got back. And right when he got back, they were like, let's interrogate him about the interrogation. And it was really odd. I mean, Rick was like, he was stoked that they were calling him, like, what did they say? His Excellency. They said they called Rick His Excellency and they gave him a white hat. And Rick was just like, dude, I don't even care if I got arrested again. Like, this shit's awesome.
And it was very big news in the world of Queen Romana. They did an emergency live stream. And for people who don't closely follow, almost daily, they do this thing called QRTV, which is like Queen Romana Truth Vision or television.
Tell Real Vision.
Tell Real Vision.
Because obviously the deep state black hats called it Tell Lie Vision because it tells lies.
Okay, they do Tell Real Vision, which is kind of ironic because they bash the mainstream media, but it seems like their live streams are mostly reading CBC articles.
Right, and RT. Like Russian news, there's a lot of Russian news in there. They really love reading the Russian news articles. So
they do these live streams almost daily. They did an emergency stream yesterday after the property owner went missing. I'll play just a second of it, and we'll hear Queen Romana's press secretary announce the kidnapping of Rick Mans. And I should also say they often make it clear that kidnapping is one of the many offenses that hold the death penalty in their world. Here's how the news was broke.
Hello and welcome everyone, all IAMs in the Kingdom of Canada and around the world. It is Wednesday, October 11, 2023. I have a breaking news, exclusive, urgent, and important message to we the people in the Kingdom of Canada and around the world. October 11, 2023. In the Kingdom of Canada, it seems we may have a case of kidnapping that took place in the town of Richmound, Saskatchewan. Rick Mans left his private property, and in brackets, the old Richmound School, at approximately 12:56 p.m. Saskatchewan time today in a dark gray 2012 Dodge Caravan. He was last seen wearing a black t-shirt with white writing with the message that said, "Dad, the man, the myth, the legend."
The legend.
Anyone that has information regarding seeing Rick Mans, who is now, this is considered kidnapping.
By who?
Until Rick Mans is found.
By them.
Yeah, considered kidnapping by them, but that was very short-lived. And when she goes on to describe what happened, to me it was quite obvious that he was arrested because he left with a vehicle. The vehicle was later seen being dropped off like at his home, I think, by police officers.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious he was arrested. They called in the international military and everything else, but it seemed it was all unnecessary because Rick just randomly showed up after being released by the police. And you talked a little bit about it there before I played that clip. Is Rick's story was that he was arrested for, I think, 2 counts of intimidation and 1 count of an assault. One of the intimidation charges, he did say in their live stream, relates to the mayor of Richmound. So,
and then he mentioned 2 other private citizens, which later the name of those private citizens were corrected. So I guess
yes,
talking about that night.
Yeah, that's right. He did say who the private citizens that he was alleged to have intimidated were, but I guess during the stream he said the wrong people. I don't really know how that happens, but regardless, at this point, I think that tells me though that the police are probably doing what they can to, I don't know if I want to say give him a hard time, but they definitely want to figure out what the hell's going on in that school.
Yeah. I think some people had suspected at first that it might have been related to Mental Health Act or something like that. And, it seems that, Rick on the stream, he said, well, I told them I'm not saying nothing. Well, then why were you arrested at 1 p.m. and returned home at 1 a.m.? If you spent 12 hours at the police station, I don't know, it would seem to me that maybe you did say something. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting update. It was quite the excitement last night when all this was going on. They were panicking. But then he turns up, and just as you said, this morning, actually, the day that we're recording this, is when he appeared on TV, their QR TV, and he seems no worse for wear, I guess. But they seem to be taking it pretty well. Now, as far as
I don't know, I would say he looked enlightened.
Well, like you said as well, as he seemed actually happy because he's like almost has been seen as like a martyr for the group now, and he's been promoted. They refer to him as His Excellency. On the stream this morning, he was wearing a white baseball cap, which is kind of symbolic for them, as like the white hats are the good guys. So that group is often wearing the white hats. So if anything, this has probably emboldened him and given him a more important role in the whole community. But when Queen Romana and her group complain about the media, you seem to be who they're talking about a lot lately. It's like the media and that guy, Tom, and they never seem to be able to explain who you are and who you work for. Sometimes I hear you referred to as like a Twitterer or a journalist or a guy on Facebook or someone who's working for the mayor. I guess they have a photo of you talking to the mayor, and that's proof to them that the mayor is paying you. But you've become front and center as far as like public enemy number one to Queen Romana and her people. And I think it has earned you a knock on your door from police. Am I right in saying that?
A knock on my door? No, not at all. No. I have communicated with the police over the telephone because they've certainly been interested for this. I think just mostly for the safety of the people there, actually. Like actually the people in the compound. That the RCMP had sort of questions and concerns for me as to what I knew about what's going on inside there. Are these people being forced? Are they being fed? Is there water? Is there, they were kind of asking human rights questions, basically.
Oh, so it was more information gathering that they went to you. Okay, because
I have not been and I've had the police even come before and say, hey, Tom, you got really close to doing a crime. That is not happening in this situation. So I'm not concerned about that.
I knew you had some conversation with them, and I thought it was as a result of what's now being shared online by Queen Romana's crew, which is one of her main guys went to the police to complain about you. He released the audio of the call, and I'm talking about a guy named Frank, who is one of their main characters. He is the one who is behind the attempted takedown of the police station. He's the man largely responsible for that. So people who've listened to my episodes about him or about that situation, they'll know his voice. I'll play you. I don't know. Have you listened to the call where he calls to report you to the police for?
I know everything about Frank Curtin. If you're listening, buddy, I know you're just telling a bunch of fibs, but buddy, I know all about you. Continue.
Well, his call to the police to report you and to ask, like, it seems like what he's doing is he's calling to say, like, are you investigating Tom Fougere? If not, I know a whole bunch about it. The call is long and meandering and all over the place, so I've edited it down to just some of the key bits. This will give you a sense of what happens when someone calls the RCMP to report someone on Facebook making fun of them, ultimately.
This is what happens when mentally ill people call the RCMP.
I would say. Here it comes.
RCMP leader.
Hi there. Could you put me through to Constable Spence, please?
He isn't in the office. Can I take a message and have him call you? Is it urgent?
No, it's not urgent. I'm just calling in regards to what's being allowed to occur at the Richmond school, at the old Richmond school.
Are you media?
No. Maybe you could help me out. I'm looking for a file case number. For any criminal act that has been violated at the old school.
Were you involved in it?
Well, I do have some. I wasn't involved personally, but I have some background as to some of the dangers that are going on. I've been investigating what's been taking place there. What I'd like to know is there's a gentleman, a media individual that's being, for lack of a better word, he's creating theatrics around the school using his online, through Twitter feeds and stuff like that. He's promoting hatred. He's violated numerous criminal code violations. So I'd just like to know if there's a file started or a case number started against either this individual. His name's Thomas Fougere, and he owns or he represents on TV, I think, a Facebook page. And this individual is, he is deliberately creating theatrics to, create, virtually creating domestic terrorism is what this man is doing.
He goes on to speak a whole lot longer, but it's quite a big jump from he's creating theatrics to domestic terrorism. Regardless, though, I don't think the RCMP have done much of an investigation into the theatrics Tom Fougier's been putting on.
They're not concerned.
They don't seem concerned. So I think what we've just talked about is kind of the main activities over the last week, but it seems like we're on the cusp of something really big. I know your birthday is coming up, right?
So tomorrow is the 13th. That's my actual 40th birthday. I'm going to try and take it easy. I'm going to try and hang out with some friends. On Saturday, there is a partial eclipse in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good omen or a bad omen, Jordan?
It seems it's an important omen. Something is going to happen.
I agree. I think maybe I am better at reading the stars than Romana Didulo is. I don't know. Possibly. It could be. Anyways, I'm gonna bring a execution electric chair out to Richmound and set it up in the field right next to where the meet and greet is going on. Have a barbecue.
The meet and greet is one that's being organized by Romana Didulo. She's called on her followers to come to Richmound for a large meet and greet, is my understanding.
Yep. And so, yeah, when they are there for the meet and greet, I'll have a few friends out there. We're not like my vision was not to like protest them or anything like that. I mean, I kind of wanted just like the photo op for my 40th birthday. You like to get a good photo on your birthday, something that's interesting, a story to tell, maybe down the road. I'm quite certain if I get a photo of myself in an electric chair with a cult behind me and a bunch of my friends, nobody's going to forget that one. I mean, that's a good story to tell. It's interesting. So,
yeah. As far as the meet and greet, do you have any idea of the scope of it? Like how many people are going to be expected to arrive? Do you have any sense of who will be showing up for this?
I think, I don't know. If I was going to guess, I'd say there are like 40 hopeful people in Canada that believe they can arrive at this destination by the day after tomorrow. I would say that many of them are too far away, don't have the stamina, will change their minds sometime in between, may even encounter some of our content and go, hey, it's actually a big joke and it's not real. Let's not go. But I think probably there's a good chance another 20 people could show up. I think they might have 40 to 50 people on that school grounds there. But, then there's also the chance. It seems like maybe at the very last minute, they're going to switch it over to a top secret location.
And the Romana Didulo's people, whether it's 40, 50, however many, are planning a meet and greet, but the people of Richmound are planning another protest that seems to be gaining steam. In fact, I've read that a Facebook post by the mayor of Richmound, Mayor Mills, advertising it. I'll read it. I'll read it here to give people a sense of what's going on. He names it, "Richmound invites you to join our peaceful protest. Hello, everyone. Things are escalating and we're desperate for help with another protest rally to keep conspiracy theorist, cult leader, and pretend queen Romana Didulo from settling into permanent residency in our town. We need your help and cannot do this alone. Please join us with people from neighboring communities for a respectful legal demonstration on Saturday, October 14th from 12 to 7 and on Sunday, the 15th from 12 to 5. Come for an hour, come for a day, or come for both days. Keep in mind, Saturday is their meet and greet, which may not be at the school, but either way, we can show our support. You're invited to share this with anyone who wants to join. This is a great way to show your support and hang out with friends at the same time." He lists some ground rules like no trespassing. It's all right to bring signs, but make sure they're respectful. They'll be offering burgers and water for anyone thanks to supporters' donations. And he ends it with, "We understand people are very emotional and at wit's end, but we can't engage them. We only want to irritate them and let them know we've not given up. Please help us save Richmound, save Saskatchewan, and protect the real country of Canada." I think it's kind of wild for the mayor of a community to have to take that step.
Right? It's like you said last time, they don't teach that in mayor school. But if anybody has like jumped on board with the new rules of engagement for being a mayor in rural Saskatchewan, it's Brad Miller. He did take a family day off. He said one day, I'd been in regular contact with him, and just about a week ago, he said, I need to take a day off and go fishing. And then a couple hours later, he posted this picture of a fish he caught in the river, which is just a big giant. And it's just like, it was very apt for him to be successful that day in what he was doing with his family and his friends, and also seemingly a very successful mayor. And even, given this really, really tough situation, his continue to focus on, how do we solve this problem amicably? He's not, he continues to say things like, we're not going to engage with any ideas that are, these, people suggesting violence. We don't want to see any of that stuff. So he's a reasonable guy, and he's doing his very best to kind of, I guess, uphold people's rights on all sides. But then, of course, recognize that the kids want to feel safe, and that's a real big issue right now, that the kids don't feel safe.
Yeah, and that's a shame. But I think, if anything, I think this is only bringing the people of Richmound together. It seems like they're rallying again around the mayor, supporting each other, standing up for each other. It's going to be interesting to see how this weekend plays out. You're holding up something here. This is your electric chair party. You're advertising your 40th birthday execution.
Right. So I've made this old school newspaper printout, handed a few out. Most people were actually just interested in me maybe signing it as a birthday, kind of like a gag kind of thing, and taking one home, sort of as a little piece of paper you can remember that interesting day by, along with probably some photos. I've been sort of promoting it like I want everybody involved. It's like, of course, I'm going to celebrate with my friends tomorrow, and probably when I get back Saturday night, there'll be an even further celebration. I think part of that Saturday, which, when you have a birthday on a weekend, and it's Friday the 13th, dude.
I know.
The bad omens, the good omens, who knows what's up?
Who knows?
But with all these things going on, certainly going to take a day off for my own birthday. But out there, when I'm in Richmound, Saskatchewan, the reason I wanted to go out there was for the folks that are out there, because I feel like they had that first protest. It didn't really work out the way they wanted it to. And now they are in, they're getting more and more anxious about what's going on there. And, my goal has always been to try and break some of this tension, while also focusing on the serious fact that this is a cult, and they shouldn't be trusted, and they tell lies. If we can get through to anybody, it's a good thing. Their protest didn't work. They're getting more anxious about it, and I'm thinking, if I'm going to celebrate my birthday, I could maybe give a little tiny piece of that, or share a piece of that with the community in a way that would be a celebration. Because I don't think the kids are having parties at the park right now. I don't think they're going to do a pumpkin carving on the school grounds. It's like all the things. It's like COVID happening just to your little town. It's like everything shut down for them. I want to say this, even the store owner, the one store owner in town there, is under threat all the time, because they have to when you're a store, your door is unlocked and people come in and they buy things. And in a small town like this, well, you're not always just in the front, sitting there at the desk waiting for somebody to come in. Sometimes you're getting something out of the back, you're stocking the shelves, and these folks from the compound come in the store to buy things, and the people who are running the store sometimes feel like they're being held hostage, but they don't want to really engage with any of that. And then there's people from the town that say, oh, well, I saw them shopping there, and it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Just not sell to people that you don't like? Like, it's very, very difficult for the people in that community to reconcile some of the things that they're seeing when they're so angry, and they're jumping to conclusions about what they might be seeing. So it's getting very difficult for the folks there. They want them to leave for so many different reasons. It's causing a lot of different kinds of tension. Aboriginal community has also recently got involved a little bit more extensively. I guess when they were ran out of Kamsack, I don't know if it was largely focused on in the mainstream, but there were Aboriginal leaders there that specifically told Queen Romana to her face, as she drove off, that she was to leave Treaty 4 land. And I guess she probably doesn't know where those marker lines are. Or maybe she doesn't care because, she's the queen, makes up her own stuff. But she's still on Treaty 4. And even though that land extends, from it's wide and long, and there's, it becomes It becomes Blackfoot really soon, and then down to the United States. Some of the indigenous people here are saying that the agreements that they have with this treaty land talk about peaceful coexistence of people on land. And so, like, while the RCMP might not be able to act on, these vague threats of this or that or the other, people in the Aboriginal community who I speak with, specifically Carmel, old friend of mine, a friend of the show, she has said that, the idea of peaceful coexistence on this land extends to everybody, even this fake majestic, whatever she wants to call herself. If she's not going to have a peaceful coexistence with the people of whatever, whether it be treaty people, whether it be settler, pioneer, whatever you want to call it, if there's not a peaceful coexistence there, then they can't stay. And
another
work are different, so we'll see what happens on that front.
Yeah, and another interesting caveat of that is Queen Romana has now, when she lists her titles or whatever, she has all these crazy titles, Commander-in-Chief, Queen of Canada, whatever, but she also says like head chief of Canadian Indigenous groups or something. Like, she claims that she's like the head chief of all of it, which I can't imagine is going to go over well.
Yeah, it doesn't go over well. What goes over about as well as her burning the Canadian flag at the convoy.
Yeah, good point. Well, we'll start wrapping this up. For people who want to see you celebrate your birthday with an electric chair out in front of this school in Richmound on Saturday, how do they find this? I'm sure you'll be live streaming.
Well, you start driving now, dependent on where you are, and you drive basically towards the center of Canada and then south towards the border. This is in the middle of the medicine wheel, really. I mean, who knows? This could be an epic event. But if you want to just check it out online, I'll be live streaming some stuff on Community TV, the Facebook page. I'll post probably a whole bunch of reels and uploads and highlights on the YouTube. So, I thank everybody who has, supported the content by just, watching, consuming, and, got a lot of new followers in the past little while, just based on this content. Could be a flash in the pan, but I hope maybe they like the content or personality. Or
what you're doing is awesome. I've only known you from your coverage of Queen Romana, but if you apply that same kind of passion and entertainment, but also like education and knowledge of the topic, if you apply that to other things in that part of the world, then man, I'm glad I found you. But Tom, I wish you the best this weekend. If you do get executed, I hope all your friends are there and the video quality is good and I'll cover it on the show. If you don't get executed, let's do this again in a week or two and stay up to date with these clowns.
And if it's somewhere halfway in between, then I'll call you from the hospital.
All right, buddy. Tom, this has been a blast. We got to go watch the Queen Romana live stream, though.
We got to do it.
All right, let's talk soon, my friend.
All right, later.
I want to thank you for joining Tom and I for this discussion. The two of us are planning to provide regular updates to this story as things continue to progress, but let me also call out to anyone closely connected to Queen Romana's group, the town of Richmound, or anyone else involved or affected by this situation in any way. If you want to talk with me or share a message with this show, I would love to hear from you. You can contact me at nighttimepodcast@gmail.com or by sending a voice memo via nighttimepodcast.com/contact. I look forward to hearing from you. Now I'm going to wrap up this episode, but before I do, let me end with some thanks. First, a big thanks to Tom for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. I'd like to thank LJ from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides this series' intro and outro voiceovers, and a shout out to Monty Datta, who contributes the music. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thanks goes out to each and every one of you listening to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. Now on the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Anna, Chris, and Daniel, thank you for going premium. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can help us out here in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs only a couple dollars a month and both funds the creation of the show while giving you the episodes 2 days early, giving them to you ad-free, and giving you access to a full back catalog of Nighttime episodes. If you're interested, you can go premium right now at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And for whatever reason, if you don't want to go premium, you can still help the show out by simply sharing this episode on social media and recommending the show to like-minded friends. Your support in growing this is very much appreciated. Now, to close things all off, let me remind you to take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte.
Romana